How you guys doing? What's going on? Let me tell you, Miss Jackson, the activist, honey, she's not letting up. She has more to talk about, more to explain about Tyrone Davis Jr. And I want you guys to hear her out. It's been a lot of things that's been said, and she says she's coming with the facts, all right? So I want to know your thoughts about this. You guys are here at the Criminal Villains YouTube channel. I am your host, Gigi Medici, and I want us to watch it, and I want to know your thoughts. Leave these comments below because I am reading the comments. We want to know what's going on. We want to get to the bottom of this. So it takes all of us to have conversation, to critique, to say, hey, I think you got that wrong. Well, we said this. We need all of that to come together to get justice for Tyrone. So let's check it out, all right?
Okay, as promised, sorry about that. I had to take a few phone calls. So I wanted to make sure that I give another update. So today we also got some of the records after some pushing from Gainesville Police Department. So I actually had sent, this was my third follow-up email, asking them basically where the stuff was and why we had not actually gotten an actual follow-up. As you know, I had to stop actually posting what I was sending because those things are being copy, pasted, people taking information, disseminating it, and don't know what they're actually doing. So Chief Moyer responded after he got with the person in charge of records over at Gainesville Police Department. And so first I'm going to read what the response was. The person from records said this, hello, Chief Moyer. He says, this evening, the records division will provide Ms. Jackson with the incident report, supporting documentation, and a list of video recordings related to her public records request. She will also receive an invoice outlining the estimated fees associated with the review and redaction of the video recordings. Once the advance payment has been received, we will update her on the status of this request and its position in our processing queue. At this time, there are approximately 300 requests for body-worn camera recordings pending review and redaction. Upon receipt of a public records request involving any video recording, we automatically place the request in an awaiting payment status until an advance payment is made. After payment is received, the request is placed in an awaiting completion status in order of request date, providing the advance payment and made within 30 days of invoice. If the payment is made, if the payment is not made, the request is canceled. Requests from the state attorney's office, public defender's office, law enforcement agencies, government entities, and the media are given high priority above other requests. However, with the information records is provided this evening, we have placed Ms. Jackson's request above a multitude of prior requests, which we received months ago. Hey there. So then from there, I got another response at 6:21. And so let me scroll to the response that I got at 6:21. So then he said, hello, Ms. Jackson. The attached documents are being provided as an interim response to your request for the below items. Also enclosed is an invoice which reflects the advance payment, which must be paid prior to us moving forward with your request. Your payment can be made in person or online, and it gives me the actual link and all the information. So I want to state I've already made the payment, which is $561 for records and videos that should be, yes, that should be free. Literally, we're having to request these records because they didn't do their job that our tax dollars already paid for. So I paid $561 in order for them to now go back and get ready to complete the actual records, the request for the videos. So I'm going to actually state to you what we're waiting on now that I've paid the $561. Now let me scroll so y'all don't know what we're waiting on, and then I'll get into what I actually have. So there was a citizen contact that they state that we'll get that is supposed to be a video that's 14 minutes long. There's another call that's 18 minutes and 1 second long. There's another, so these are all the 911 calls. So basically from what we're getting, there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so 6 911 calls. So we'll be able to actually hear all of those 911 calls and gather different information. Additionally, there actually is a video that somebody has sent. And so with that one, it's 19 seconds. So we'll get to see what that actually is. Then there is another 1, 2, 3, 4 911 calls, 5 911 calls. So that means there's a total of 11 911 calls. Then there's body cam footage that we're waiting on. There's another citizens video that we're waiting on. They stated that there was a follow-up where a citizen contacted them, so that was probably one of the witness statements. There was some body cam footage, the Papa John's lobby video, another video, and it don't state from where, so we'll actually get to state that. Some more body cam footage, a screen recording of some particular footage, so we'll see what that is once we get it. Another screen recording of something, another screen recording. And it just says citizens contacts, another screen recording, another screen recording. So when I kept telling you all that we were waiting for all of these particular things, an MP3 recording, because that's what I state. I don't like to make assumptions. We want to look at the actual evidence. Another MP3, another video, some more photos, and some inside and outside still images, some more body cam footage. The interview with Kiara, that was 4 hours and 56 minutes that we'll get. Body worn camera, body worn camera, body worn camera, body worn camera, body worn camera with different citizen contacts. Yes, Papa John's recording is one of the things that they're supposed to provide now that we paid this $561. So I wanted to state to you all of the things that we are waiting on now that they've moved my records request ahead of everybody's, and we had to pay $561. The other things that were attached was some reports and supplemental reports that I want to actually be able to read to you all, so you all are aware. The reason that I'm reading them instead of posting them is because you all are aware that people are taking them, they are changing them, they are harassing people that are listening to them, people are getting death threats and those particular things. So because those things are happening, but here, when I'm stating to you things very clearly that were stated to us or that we are aware of, as I've stated, I'm not stating anything from speculation. I am talking about actual facts. I'm talking about actual evidence. And so that's the reason that even for some of these things you've heard before, I'm reading directly from them. And as I stated, I would do this as you got them. I also want to state that a lot of people are questioning who the private investigator is. The private investigator has been very clear that as he is investigating, he is not to be known forward-facing because discretion is one of the ways that he's able to get information that some people are not able to get. So that's in the police report, so we'll read about Papa John's. So with that discretion, so for example, the private investigator was able to talk to a neurosurgeon who's writing this statement that makes it clear that the injuries cannot be from him jumping from a car going 25 miles per hour. Because of the private investigator, they're going to be able to canvass some of the other areas. So when we're getting all of the information that I'm reading to you, the private investigator is going and being able to fill in the actual gaps. So certain things, even too, he might state, well, I need you to go get this additional information or go to request that. And then when we get that, he can take it and do other things and do other follow-up. So that is his role, is it's like boots actually on the ground and that additional deliberate actual follow-up. So I did want to name that because people are very, have been asking that question. So just making sure that we answer why that is and what took place. And I want to share that because I do believe that the family stated that they were going to share who it was. But once they met with the private investigator, he's the person that has stated that. And so that is the reason that for those of us who have met with him, they are, and I'll be real. So even once I met with him and got his card and information, I went and then did additional information. I went and looked at additional reviews. I went and contacted people that are here, like at our public defender's office and defense attorneys that I know, and found out that he's a very trusted and very well-respected private investigator. And I wanted to do that to ensure that the family did not spend their money and that it actually be a waste. And so, as we proceed forward. And even too, like I stated, the private investigator has 22 years of law enforcement experience in Gainesville. So he was actually able to go meet with Detective Dose the day before we did. So when we sat down and met with him after meeting with GPD, he was already able to let us know things that seemed like there were holes in the case related, and also two additional next steps because of his FBI training and his law enforcement training. So I want to share that. So this one is was called a case supplemental report. And they had a supervisor to actually review it and close it out. on March 11th of 11/20, which was on a Wednesday. So the synopsis is that on 12/27 at approximately 5:50, patrol responded to the 4100 block of Southwest Archer Road in reference to what initially dispatched as a vehicle crash with injuries and later re-verified as a medical emergency. This is confusing to me because if you get there and it's supposed to be a vehicle crash with injuries, they were supposed to secure the scene. So I'm so confused that they did not. Patrol arrived on the scene and located Tyrone Davis Jr., black male, unconscious in the roadway, being tended to by passerby, and then it names the passerby, which is one of the witnesses that you all have seen that they've interviewed. And patrol spoke with Mitchell Zimmerman, who was said he was driving eastbound on Southwest Archer Road when he noticed what he thought was a large trash bag and Papa John's pizza box in the roadway. I want to name that this is a supplemental report because remember, they didn't talk to the witnesses when they should have. So they had to go back and add this report because they had not bothered. So I want to make sure I name that as I read this for you. Mitchell slowed down and noticed it was a person laying in the outermost lane of the roadway. The person stopped his vehicle to block the lane. The woman and her husband stopped and noticed Tyrone in the roadway. The woman, a nurse, immediately began rendering aid while the first person called 911. The only reason I'm not reading their names is because of the harassment and things that people have been subjected to. I want to name at this moment that GPD has been clear that once we get the videos, we're going to see that there were no cars that followed the path of Kiara's car until Zimmerman's car came up. So there is no way that he could have been hit, and his injuries don't support that. So I just want to name that in that part. Gainesville Fire Rescue and Alachua County Fire Rescue arrived and began treating Tyrone. Kiara Davis arrived on scene immediately asking if Tyrone was okay. Kiara spoke, and I want to make sure that I'm naming this for you all, that in this report, they stated that she arrived immediately. And I'm going to be able to state when I get further down what I want you to remember that they said that she arrived immediately. Kiara spoke with patrol officers and said she and Tyrone were leaving Papa John's and were arguing while Kiara was driving. Kiara said she made a U-turn at Southwest Archer Road in the southbound entrance of I-75. Sometime during the U-turn, Tyrone opened the door and jumped out of the vehicle as it was moving. Kiara said she did not stop in the roadway because she did not want to cause an accident, so she continued driving and stopped in the Circle K parking lot to wait for Tyrone to walk to her vehicle. When she noticed the emergency vehicles in the area where Tyrone jumped out, she went back to the scene to check on him. I want to state to you and make sure that I center for you all. Number one, that the first call to 911, hold on so I can tell you the time that it actually came in. The first call to 911 came in at 5:46. So remember, the first call to 911 came in at 5:46. I want to name that she stated that he jumped out of a moving vehicle and she drove at a moving vehicle at an underpass, at a bridge, and she went to the store to wait for him to walk to her. How was he going to get there if he was at the underpass at the bridge? I also want to name that even with law enforcement, we asked how many vehicles were behind them before the first witness saw them. And they stated on the video, there are zero, there are none. So I want to state that. Patrol spoke with all three of the witnesses who were still on the scene. Mind you, they just got their information and that was it. None of them saw how Tyrone ended up on the roadway. Tyrone was transported to Shands UF by Alachua County Fire Rescue under a trauma alert. Tyrone was placed in the trauma unit under the trauma name Lepore C. Shands staff advised Tyrone had a fractured skull, brain swelling, and abrasions on the back of his head. Shands staff also said Tyrone's injuries were life-threatening. Remember that Kiara stated to everyone that she did not call the family because she did not think that his injuries were that serious. Officer Porter arrived at Shands and spoke with Kiara further. Kiara said she and Tyrone had just picked up a pizza from Papa John's and were driving back to their hotel at the Fairfields. Kiara said when she and Tyrone had argued in the past, it is typical for one of them to get out of the vehicle and start walking while the other drives a short distance and waits for them to walk up. Kiara said Tyrone had never got out of the vehicle during an argument while it was moving. Kiara said when Tyrone got out of the vehicle, she was shocked because she did not know he was going to do that. Kiara said prior to, so mind you, she said they're known to get out of the vehicle, but she was shocked that he got out of the vehicle because he was not known to do that. Kiara said prior to this incident, Tyrone had been feeling overwhelmed from the holidays and his grandfather passing away. Kiara said she believed Tyrone was acting irrationally when he jumped out of the vehicle. Kiara said she had been doing a U-turn. She believed Tyrone thought that she was going slower than she actually was. I want you to remember that she said at this part that she felt like he was feeling overwhelmed, because that's going to matter a little bit down the road. Kiara said she did not stop immediately because she did not want to cause a crash with other vehicles. Remember, there were no other vehicles on the road in that lane at all. Kiara said she drove and parked at the Circle K and waited for Tyrone to walk back to her vehicle. When Tyrone was taking a long time, she noticed emergency vehicles gathered near the overpass. Kiara then drove back to the scene and made contact with officers. The reason I want to note this is the first call was made at 5:46. Law enforcement got there at 5:50, and then with the vehicles, they said 5:58. So basically, it was 12 minutes. So how did she get there immediately if there was a 12-minute gap? So I'm showing you the bias, the writing in the report, but the timestamps don't support that she arrived immediately. Officer Porter took photographs of the interior and exterior of Kiara's vehicle. And they named the vehicle, which is a 2015 Infiniti QX70. And it gives the Florida tag. After taking pictures of Kiara's vehicle, Porter spoke with Tyrone's mother, Renee Demps, over the phone. Renee's phone number was provided to Porter by Kiara. Renee said Tyrone had never been suicidal and had never had any mental health issues. On 12/29, at approximately 200 hours, which is 2 o'clock, Porter and FTO Wilson spoke with Tyrone's sister and cousin, and both stated they had concerns about Kiara and said they had a history of verbal disputes in the past. They informed him that the information they provided was consistent with what Kiara had reported. How is it consistent if Kiara was reporting that everything was great before then, but they're stating that there were major things that happened prior to this particular time? I don't know. But anyways, that's when the family also stated they believed that something may have happened while they were camping at Postcard Cabins in Gilchrist. They said they believe that Kiara put Tyrone in her vehicle at the campsite, and possibly he could have been pushed out. We don't know. So 12/29 at 8:50, they go through, they talk to Tyrone's sister, and this is when they let it be known that he had already now been declared brain dead. This is important because people report that on the 30th, she was putting the phone to their ear, stating that Tyrone could hear them and understand, even though she knows he had already been reported to have been brain dead. The doctors at Shands told her Tyrone's injuries were not consistent with Kiara's story about him jumping out of a moving vehicle, as he had blunt force traumas to the back of his head. Taquisha further said surveillance video from Papa John's which showed that the couple were arguing and possibly fighting before the incident. She also went to the area where Tyrone was found and located a subject and provided a photo of that person. Tyrone and Kiara had a room at the Fairfield by Marriott, and that Tyrone's cell phone was pinging at that location. Kiara was in possession of Tyrone's personal belongings and would not give them to the family. The sister also had concerns about Kiara driving at the time of the incident because Tyrone always drove everywhere and believes Kiara should not have been driving when the incident occurred. The sister also provided the name of the cabin, which was Postcard Cabins, early in the week, and 2 witnesses reported a possible domestic incident. And they reported this because they'd already gone out to Postcard Cabins and already talked to the people. So we're clear about this. And at this particular time, no one can verify the stuff at Papa John's because they didn't have that just yet. So then Officer Boyette went to Shands, and mind you, the family asked for them to come see them. They didn't. They just spoke with them over the phone. But then did go to Shands, and they spoke with a charge nurse who confirmed that Tyrone was declared brain dead. And here they said 1,300 hours, but the other documentation say 329. So 1,300 hours is 1 o'clock. Why they stuff all over the place? I don't know. and that he would remain on a ventilator until 1 o'clock on the 30th. Officer Boyette also went to Papa John's and was told the pizza order was a walk-in order that was made at 5:18, which we know was on the pizza box, and that the manager was sent a link and uploaded the video of the order being placed. Officer Boyette also went to Fairfield but was unable to view the surveillance video. Boyette also canvassed the area for the subject that the sister provided a photo of but was unable to locate him at that time. So then there's another report. So this report is where they reviewed call notes of the incident, and it's a summary of those notes. So basically, I told you the call came in at 5:46 to the Combined Communication Center, which is 911. They began receiving multiple calls of an individual laying on a roadway at Southwest Archer Road near I-75 overpass, blocking the eastbound lane. The individual was awake but not responsive. None of the callers saw how the individual got in the roadway, and nobody saw a vehicle hit the individual. At 17:49, the individual was no longer awake but still breathing. So that's literally 3 minutes after he was no longer awake but still breathing. At 17:50, GPD arrived, which I stated was 4 minutes later. They got there before fire rescue did. The subject is breathing, has a pulse, and is in recovery position. Mind you, GPD are first responders, but they didn't jump in as a first responder. They just stood around while the witnesses were the ones trying to deliver aid. 17:56, the first fire rescue reports that the subject is a trauma alert in reference to falling out of the moving vehicle and losing consciousness. And then 17:57 is when Kiara arrived, and that's when they're getting the individual ready to be transported to UF Health. 12 minutes. So the police said she got there immediately, but it literally was 12 minutes, and it was 8 minutes after law enforcement got there. At 18:28, they re-verified that it's not a vehicle accident, and it was injuries that from a medical emergency that they needed to figure out. So again, at that time, they should have been securing the scene and trying to figure out what took place if they understand that this was no other vehicle that was involved. They should have been looking for skin on the road. They should have been looking for like anything, blood, anything. They didn't do any of those things. And mind you, they knew this at 6:28. At 11:12, Officer Porter adds call notes that she's attempting to contact the individual's mother, Renee Demps. So then it goes on to say, I reviewed body cam footage from the officers on scene. Tyrone was laying down in the roadway with his feet facing east. I don't know east and west, so I don't know what that is. Tyrone's feet were in the outermost eastbound lane, while his upper body was in the bicycle lane. Tyrone was approximately 40 feet on west of I-75 overpass. The first witness was the first person to stop and attempt to help Tyrone. That person said he was driving and saw what he believed to be a trash bag in the roadway. As he got closer, he realized it was a person. That person stopped his vehicle, which was in the outermost eastbound lane, to block traffic from being able to hit Tyrone. That person said another vehicle stopped and those occupants began rendering aid. This person said he did not see how Tyrone got in the roadway. The other people who stopped to render aid were the two witnesses that we know about. One is a nurse and said when they first approached Tyrone, he was unresponsive and would not talk. They both said they had no idea how he got in the roadway. They said he was initially in the roadway and they put him to the shoulder. They rolled him onto his side in a recovery position and kept him stabilized. Kiara arrived to the scene approximately 8 minutes after the first officer arrived. Kiara gets out of her vehicle and immediately approaches the ambulance as Tyrone is being loaded onto it and asks if Tyrone is okay and trying to ask what happened. So you're aware, you stated that he jumped out of a moving car, but you pulled up and asked what happened. GPD said that we're going to see body cam footage when you was there the whole time, but in this report, it states that you arrived as he was getting into the ambulance. So I don't know. I'm just telling you what we got going on here. Kiara said she did not see Tyrone fall down or lose his footing when he jumped out of the car. On 12:30, I spoke with Kiara Davis over the phone. Kiara said she and Tyrone spent Christmas in the cabin in Gilchrist County. She said she and Tyrone believed they had the cabin rented through Sunday, 12/28, but later realized they had to check out on Saturday, 12/27. Kiara said they left the cabin on Saturday morning and checked into the Fairfield Inn and Suites at approximately 3 o'clock, which we know they got there at 3:08. That's correct. Kiara said at around 5:15, she and Tyrone went to get pizza from Papa John's. After leaving Papa John's, Kiara said she and Tyrone were arguing and she missed her turn to get back to the hotel. So Kiara said she had to do a U-turn near I-75. Kiara said around the time of the U-turn, Tyrone opened the door and jumped out of the vehicle while she was driving. Now earlier, she said that he opened the door as she stopped to do the U-turn and he didn't realize that she was still going. Now she said he jumped out of the vehicle while she was driving. Kiara said she continued to drive and stopped at a Circle K gas station and waited for Tyrone to walk to her vehicle. I don't know about you, but somebody jumping out of a car, I'm not going to pull off and wait. I need to see what happened, but maybe it's just me. Kiara said she began seeing emergency vehicles driving to the area where Tyrone jumped out of the car, so she drove back to that area and spoke with EMS and GPD officers. Kiara agreed to meet for an in-person interview at a later time. After speaking with Kiara over the phone, Detective Quinn and I began canvassing for surveillance video. They got videos from Papa John's, they got video from Fairfield Inn, and they spoke with the manager at Fairfield Inn. For documentation purposes, I'm using the timestamps on the surveillance videos, but it should be noted that the timestamp on Fairfield's surveillance system is 6 minutes ahead. The video from Fairfield Inn shows Tyrone and Kiara checking into the hotel. Kiara's vehicle parks under the actual time, under the awning at the front doors of the lobby, and Kiara exits the driver's seat and walks into the lobby at 15:04, which is actually 14:58 because of 6 minutes difference. At 15:05, Tyrone exits the front passenger seat of the vehicle shirtless. He opens the rear hatch and the rear passenger door. He removes a backpack from the back seat and walks to the rear of the vehicle where he puts a shirt on and then enters the lobby at 15:07. Tyrone appears to have no issues walking. After checking in, Tyrone and Kiara exit the lobby at 15:13, which is 3:13. Kiara gets into the driver's seat of the vehicle while Tyrone removes a bag and backpack from the rear hatch. Tyrone then appears to get more items from the front passenger seat area. Kiara then drives away as Tyrone is closing the front passenger door at 3:15. Kiara drives south towards 37th Boulevard and Southwest Archer Road. Tyrone goes back into the hotel and is seen going up to his room. At 5:08, Kiara returns to the hotel and parks outside of the lobby. At 5:17, Tyrone exits the hotel and enters the front passenger seat of the vehicle. This is important because remember the hotel lobby video is 6 minutes off. So that's 5:17, but it's actually 5:11. Tyrone was not seen on video from the time he entered the hotel room after checking in and is exiting after Kiara arrived. So they sent a link for this video. The surveillance video from Papa John's, and they got the address. Tyrone entered the store at 5:15. He places an order and he exits the store at 5:18. We know that's the time of the pizza box. Tyrone walks back into Papa John's at 5:36. He picks up his order and he exits at 5:37. So he left Papa John's at 5:37. He's found on the roadway at 5:46. So we know something happened in those 9 minutes. Tyrone was carrying a box of pizza and a pack of chicken wings as he walked out of the store. The vehicle was not parked in view of any cameras at Papa John's. Detective Quinn and I both went to Circle K, which is the one on Archer Road. They collected surveillance video. The Circle K surveillance video shows Kiara's vehicle turn north off of Southwest Archer Road and immediately turn east into the Circle K parking lot at 5:44. Kiara drives in front of the store and parks her vehicle near the sidewalk on Archer Road. This is important. You left Papa John's at 5:36. They see her vehicle at 5:44. So now the window has closed. So something happened between 5:36 and 5:44. So that's 8 minutes. Kiara drives in the front of the store and parks her vehicle on the sidewalk facing northwest at Southwest Archer Road. Throughout the whole time, Kiara's vehicle is at Circle K. Nobody is seen entering or exiting her vehicle, which means there was nobody else in the vehicle. I want to state that. At 5:49 and 5:50, emergency vehicles are seen on their way to the scene. So then Kiara exits the parking lot traveling east on Southwest Archer Road, and then Kiara arrives, well, her vehicle is seen traveling back west on Southwest Archer Road toward the scene. Then they say it cameras Burger King and the Exxon, and there is no surveillance video, so they say, of evidentiary value. It seems to me I would have got the video and put it on file, but this is what they say. They also canvassed the area for the homeless man in the photo provided by Tyrone's sister, who may have witnessed the incident, but I was unable to locate him. I spoke with multiple homeless individuals in the area, and none of them knew anything about the incident. When I arrived back at GPD, I reviewed the surveillance videos and noticed a video uploaded from Country Inn and Suites. This video showed Kiara's vehicle traveling west on Archer Road and doing the U-turn at I-75 southbound entrance ramp, and then traveling east on Archer Road. In this video, it appears the vehicle's front passenger door begins to open near completion of the U-turn. After completing the U-turn, Kiara's vehicle is seen traveling west out of the camera's view. Nobody is seen exiting the vehicle. A group of vehicles that were stopped at the light traveling east began driving when the eastbound light turns green, which means there's vehicles in the far lane, nowhere near the lane that he is in. The video was recorded from a phone viewing the monitor. I went to Country Inn and Suites to review the video, but I was unable to locate it on their system. I later learned that the video had been recorded over as the surveillance system overrides itself in a set amount of time. On December the 29th, I received an email from Gilchrist County Sheriff's Office asking me to call him. And that's when they talked to the sheriff's office. The family reported all the things that they had said. And the only reason I'm going through this is because we know it did not happen at Gilchrist County. And so the family went through all the circumstances that they believed, and how he had gone, and they believed he was under a John Doe, and that they informed them to follow up at Papa John's. I also informed them that he had been identified on scene, which was Tyrone, by his Florida driver's license and by Kiara prior to being transported to UF Health. On 12/31, which was 4 days later, Kiara met me at the GPD station, where she was interviewed by Detective Rodanis and I in GPD CID interview room. The interview was a video and audio recorded and uploaded to their evidence thing. The following is a summary of Kiara's 4-hour interview. For a verbatim copy of the interview, refer to the recording. Kiara and Tyrone came up from Orlando and were staying in a cabin in Gilchrist Springs. They arrived at the cabin on Wednesday and left on Saturday. They thought they booked the cabin through Sunday, but later realized they had through Saturday. They tried to extend their stay, but could not, because like the man said, the cabin was already rented out. So they got a hotel reservation in Gainesville. On Saturday, they got into a loud argument before they left the cabin. During the argument, they were yelling back and forth about meeting each other's sexual needs. During the argument, Tyrone threw his Wi-Fi router onto the floor, breaking it. While Kiara was packing up the car, an employee from the property came and checked on her, which we know it was the property manager. Kiara told the employee she got into an argument and everything was okay. When they left, Kiara was so mad, she told Tyrone she was driving because the vehicle was hers. Sometime around 9 or 10, they each had a glass of Hennessy and Red Bull, according to her. To Kiara's knowledge, Tyrone only had one drink that day. They left the campsite and drove to Gainesville to stay at the Fairfield Inn. Mind you, they done had the same amount of alcohol, so she's the person that's drinking. But the good thing about it is, even if it had, the amount he had was so much significantly lower than the legal limit. But I'm just pointing that out. They left the campsite and drove to Gainesville to stay at the Fairfield Inn. They chose the Fairfield Inn because Kiara gets a Marriott employee discount. After checking into the hotel, Tyrone stayed at the hotel because he was still mad about the argument, while Kiara went to T-Mobile to try and get a new Wi-Fi router. Kiara stated to the family that it was T-Mobile. GPD said it was AT&T. Remember, I said that I wanted to get the information to know if GPD misspoke or if the story changed. So that part of the story did not change. It's always been T-Mobile. GPD got it wrong. Tyrone said that he was hungry and wanted something to eat. Tyrone came out of the hotel and got into Kiara's vehicle, and they continued arguing. They went from the hotel to Papa John's. Kiara waited in the vehicle while Tyrone went inside to place an order. When the order was ready, Tyrone went back in and picked up the pizza. When they left Papa John's, they were still arguing. Kiara was driving west on Southwest Archer Road and missed her turn towards the hotel because they were arguing. Kiara continued driving west until she got to the interstate. The argument continued, and they were now talking about a situation involving Tyrone's daughter. Tyrone's daughter had been getting in trouble and got caught lying to Tyrone. And so and I read what she stated, but we learned that that's not what actually happened. So Tyrone also found in his daughter's cell phone that she wished that she were dead. Tyrone was also upset with things the mother of his children was telling them and put it in their heads. So we later learned that that's actually not true. The person who created the risk for Tyrone and his daughter was Kiara, not the daughter's mom, and not because she was trying to kill herself or any of these things. So we learned that that part's not true. Kiara made her U-turn to go back towards the hotel. At some point, Tyrone jumped out of the vehicle while Kiara was driving. We already know the medical evidence says that he was not jumped out of a vehicle while she was actually driving. Kiara thinks Tyrone jumped out of the vehicle because he was so mad about their argument. Remember, her earlier statement, she felt like he jumped out of the vehicle because he was overwhelmed about his daughter and his granddad. In this statement, she says that he was so mad about their argument. Kiara could not remember if she slowed down or not when she realized Tyrone was getting out of the vehicle. Kiara said it all happened so fast and it caught her off guard. It caught her off guard, but she kept going. Kiara did not think she was going that fast because she had been doing a U-turn. But then now she was going 25, 30 miles per hour. I don't know. Tyrone had jumped out of moving vehicles in the past while messing around, but never doing an argument. Remember, Kiara says he's never jumped out of the car doing an argument, only when they mess around like Florida boys. And I want to state that because that's important. Kiara further explained that when Tyrone had jumped out of moving vehicles in the past, it had been when they were slowing down to a stop. And he sees someone that he knows. So even when he jumped out when they were messing around, it's when they slow it down to a stop and he saw someone that he knows. Tyrone would jump out of the vehicle and run up to his friends. Kiara said it was abnormal for Tyrone to jump out of the moving vehicle during an argument. Again, Kiara said it was abnormal for Tyrone to jump out of a moving vehicle during an argument. When they typically argue while they're in the car, they would park or stop, and one would get out of the vehicle to separate themselves. Whoever would get out of the car would start walking while the other would drive a short distance down the road and wait for them. What used to happen would be Tyrone would get out of the car and walk, while Kiara would drive next to him until he was ready to get back in. But that seemed to make the arguments worse, so they got into the habit of driving down the road a little bit and waiting. This would give them space and time to cool down. And we learned that, being a crash out girlfriend, that Kiara was a crash out, so she wouldn't let things calm down. But this is her statement. What used to happen, I read that part. On the day of the incident, when Tyrone jumped out of the vehicle, Kiara proceeded to drive to the Circle K. So you're not used to him jumping out of a vehicle. It caught you off guard. And even though it was out of the ordinary, you kept going. Kiara waited. For her, it was approximately 5 or 6 minutes. We know the calculation was 12. And then saw police cars and an ambulance going to the area where Tyrone got out of the vehicle. Kiara drove back to the scene and spoke with EMS and GPD and told them what happened. There was a nurse at the scene that said she had found Tyrone in the road and tried to help him. An officer at the scene gave Kiara Tyrone's wallet and cell phone. Kiara stated she would follow the ambulance to Shands. We know that she didn't, and that's how she got lost, and there was such confusion about the actual trauma name. So then they go into their relationship history. They say Kiara and Tyrone met 10 years ago. They dated off and on for the first 5 years and have been steady dating for the last 5 years. Early on in their relationship, arguments became physical with both of them putting their hands on each other. Kiara got arrested in 2020 for disorderly conduct. The family is aware that it was domestic, but what they did is charged her with disorderly conduct instead of a domestic battery. This arrest was a result, which she admitted, of an argument between them. The case was later dismissed. After Kiara was arrested, Tyrone picked her up from the jail. Kiara described Tyrone as being amazing and having the biggest heart. Tyrone was the outgoing one in the relationship, while Kiara was more reserved. Kiara's family has nothing bad to say about Tyrone. Tyrone's mother's side of the family likes Kiara. Tyrone's father's side of the family used to like her, but since this incident, they have been hostile towards her. Tyrone's family since the incident. Kiara said she gave the hospital staff Tyrone's mother's phone number, but she had the wrong number for his father, which we know is a lie. Tyrone's father's side of the family was upset about this, as they should, because we know that's a lie. Since the incident, Tyrone's mother's side of the family has been supportive of her. Since the incident, Tyrone's father's side of the family has been hostile towards Kiara and accused her of murdering Tyrone. I've not heard them state that she murdered them. They said it was only 2 people in the car and only one walked away, and the one who walked away, her story has been changing. That's what I've heard, but I'm telling you what's written in the report. Tyrone's aunt has started spreading rumors that Kiara hit Tyrone in the head with a Hennessy bottle. Now, Aunt Tasha did say that might be possible, so I'll say that. And that he was pushed out of the car. The argument after they left Papa John's and Tyrone getting out of the vehicle. Tyrone and Kiara were arguing about Kiara not wanting to have sex. Tyrone kept trying to talk over Kiara. Kiara kept telling Tyrone, I don't give a fuck. I don't want to talk about this no more. Kiara turned the music louder, which upset Tyrone. Kiara was driving and not paying attention to what Tyrone was doing. Kiara did not see Tyrone fidgeting around or putting his hand on the door handle. Kiara did notice Tyrone was moving his hands around while he was talking, so she does not believe Tyrone had his hand on the door handle while they were arguing. I'm going to read that again. Kiara was driving and not paying attention to what Tyrone was doing. Kiara did not see Tyrone fidgeting around or putting his hand on the door handle. Kiara did notice Tyrone was moving his hands around while he was talking. You know how we talk with our hands. So she does not believe Tyrone had his hand on the door handle while they were arguing. Tyrone had the pizza box on his lap during the argument. As the door was opening, Kiara believes she said, Tyrone, what the fuck? Kiara said this in a sense of Tyrone was taking things too far. Kiara remembered Tyrone holding the pizza in one hand and opening the door with the other hand. Kiara said she might have hit the brake a little bit as the door opened, but she could not remember. She said she also may have sped up after the door closed out of frustration, but she could not remember. I'm going to read that again. She said she might have hit the brake as the door opened, but she could not remember. And then she said she might have sped up after the door closed out of frustration, but she could not remember. When Tyrone got out of the car, Kiara did not see him in any of the mirrors. Kiara believes she saw him standing in her peripheral, but was unsure. Again, you're not known to do this. You said the vehicle was moving. It was out of character. You're not sure if you saw him, but you kept going. Tyrone was not wearing a seatbelt prior to getting out of the vehicle. It was common for Tyrone not to wear a seatbelt. Kiara believed she had already completed the U-turn when Tyrone got out. The door closed on its own after Tyrone got out or Tyrone closed the door. And my thing is if she completed the U-turn after he got out, why you needed to speed up? But I don't know. Who am I? The Circle K was the first place she saw that she could stop to wait for Tyrone. Kiara may have been accelerating when Tyrone got out of the vehicle because she had just done the U-turn but was unsure of her speed. I want to state this because there was a reconstruction done and it is impossible for her to be going 25, 30 miles per hour. Also, I read you earlier where she stated that she had stopped doing this U-turn, but now here her story's changed again. She does not know how fast she was going. And it's so weird because GPD says her statements have been consistent. Kiara regrets not looking back when Tyrone got out of the vehicle. Tyrone was not suicidal. Tyrone always carried a handgun with him. After the incident, Kiara could not find his handgun anywhere in the hotel room. I informed Kiara that EMS located a handgun on Tyrone. Now, mind you, this is the handgun that the family's asked about multiple times. Nobody's given any answers. They said that the family made it up. And mind you, law enforcement, even when we've stated this, has still not stated to the family. We just had a meeting, March 13th, that they recovered the handgun. They didn't say a word. Prior to asking more detailed questions, I read Kiara her Miranda rights via GPD issued Miranda warning card. Kiara said she understood her rights and agreed to speak with us. Post Miranda, she denied pushing Tyrone out of the vehicle. She denied touching Tyrone as he was getting out of the vehicle. She denied intentionally speeding up as Tyrone was getting out of the vehicle, causing him to lose his footing. Mind you, she said she may have accelerated, but over here, after they read her Miranda, she denied doing it. She denied jerking the steering wheel after Tyrone began to open the door, but you already stated that you was already making a U-turn when he got out. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. To open the door in a manner that would cause Tyrone to fall out of the vehicle. She denied hitting Tyrone in the head with any objects. She said there would be no searches or messages regarding Tyrone's death or injury in her phone prior to the incident. I'm actually okay with that. I believe that's believable. I don't think whatever happened was planned. Like, really. Earlier on during the interview, Kiara made the statement, "I'm not the one who pushed him out of the car." Well, who did? I asked Kiara what she meant by this, and she said she worded the phrase like that because Tyrone's father's side of the family has made the accusations that she pushed him out of the car. Kiara was adamant she did not push Tyrone out of the vehicle. Excited utterance is what I call it. During the interview, Kiara consented to a download of her cell phone. This consent was given post-Miranda, 4 days later. Kiara signed a consent to search form, and her cell phone were turned over to Detective Purtle to complete a forensic download. At the conclusion of the interview, Kiara turned over Tyrone's cell phone. Mind you, he has 3 phones. She only turned over one to be downloaded. Also, after the interview, I informed Kiara that I would be collecting her vehicle as evidence. Mind you, this is 4 days later. Kiara's vehicle was then stored at GPD Sallyport until a search warrant was obtained. After the interview, there was no probable cause for arrest. Kiara was released and given a ride to the airport by patrol in order for her to rent a vehicle. On January the 1st, Kiara's cell phone download was completed. Kiara returned to the station and retrieved her cell phone. While Kiara was at the station getting her cell phone, Detective Ronnie took photographs of the Wi-Fi router and uploaded them. Why that's relevant, I don't know, but we're going to keep going. On January the 5th, I obtained a search warrant for the download of the infotainment center in Kiara's vehicle. Now, mind you, back on December the 30th, they told the ME that they were going to get a search warrant in order to check for the acceleration, the deceleration, and the door opening of the vehicle. But somehow, by the time we got to January the 5th, they decided only to do the infotainment center, when literally, even listening to the statement she gave, it would have made sense to get the black box. The search warrant was signed by Honorable Judge Kreider. The search warrant was served on the vehicle, and the infotainment center was removed from the vehicle and downloaded. On January the 6th, I spoke with the first witness over the phone. He was the first person to notice Tyrone on the roadway. He confirmed that he did not witness how Tyrone ended up on the roadway. On 1/7, I spoke with Katrina. I don't know who that is. So somebody, and I don't want to say their names because they've been harassing people. But this person was standing at the cabin near the one where Tyrone and Kiara were staying. She stated on 12/27 at approximately 12:50, showed a female yelling and a male trying to calm her down. Katrina later heard more yelling of, "You're no good. You never listen to me." And he's saying, "Chill out." After the yelling, she saw a white SUV driving the wrong way on a one-way road into the campground. This witness said the white SUV parked near the campsite and sat for a little bit before leaving. This person said the driver looked like a female, but the windows were too tinted for her to see anyone in the passenger seat. On 1/8, the download of Kiara's vehicle infotainment center was completed. The infotainment center was placed back in the vehicle, and Kiara's vehicle was returned to her. The download of the infotainment center did not produce any evidence relevant to the investigation. But again, why would you not do the black box? The only information obtained was past addresses entered in the vehicle from South Florida. Mind you, they told us, but it was one to AT&T. But okay. Both Kiara and Tyrone's cell phones were downloaded. Kiara's cell phone location updated itself approximately every 2 seconds. Kiara's cell phone location confirmed she went to T-Mobile after leaving Tyrone at the hotel. Kiara's location and call log also confirmed she called Tyrone at 4:58. This lasted 37 seconds. Based on Kiara's phone location, this call made while she was in the area of Archer Road. Kiara's cell phone also showed an incoming call from Tyrone at 5 o'clock. This was approximately the same time Kiara was turning northbound. Kiara's phone location showed after the time Tyrone placed the Papa John's order, they stayed in the area near Papa John's until Tyrone picked up the pizza and wings. Between the intersection where Kiara made the U-turn and the Circle K where Kiara waited for Tyrone, Kiara's cell phone showed constant movement, showing she did not stop in the area where Tyrone was located. Multiple Google searches related to brain bleeds were located after the incident. I could not locate any internet searches pertaining to his death prior to the incident occurring. I located text messages made with Tyrone while Kiara was at T-Mobile. In these text messages, Tyrone was apologizing to Kiara about having to get a new Wi-Fi router. There were also text messages to Tyrone giving her money to pay for the router. I also located text messages after the incident from Renee telling Kiara not to give any of Tyrone's property to his father's side of the family and to wait for Renee to come get it. These text messages were sent while Kiara was at Shan's after the incident. I don't know, because I was told that Renee was already there first because she had been denoted. So I'm not sure if she left or what happened for this to even be a conversation. But this was prior to. So, and this was on the 27th immediately. I located a text message Kiara sent to Renee on 12/28 at 11:56, which said he ended up getting out of the car for space after our conversation, and he ended up slipping and banging his head. So now it's a different story, because now he slipped and banged his head. How do you know that if you say you didn't see any of this? At 11:58, she texts Renee, I think he was overwhelmed and not moving how he normally moves. So now you're back to he was overwhelmed, which is what you said, but when you got interviewed 4 days later, you say he got it because he was mad. Okay. We had an argument, and right after, he started talking about Chloe. Other text messages were located in which Kiara was saying how much she loved Tyrone. She texted a friend Fifi, why didn't God take me too? What the fuck did I do to deserve this hate? All I did was fucking love this man. I did not locate any text messages with anyone indicating that she was happy that he passed away. And again, nobody saying that she did. It seems like it might have been an accident, but she's still culpable for criminal negligence. Well, who am I? Not that it was an accident that was his own doing. Tyrone's cell phone download showed that this was not the cell phone he had on his person at the time of the incident. Didn't I just tell you that he had more than one cell phone? So, mind you, I've been telling y'all this. Tyrone's cell phone download showed this was not the cell phone he had on his person at the time of the incident. So if they gave her the cell phone at the time of the incident, why did she give him that cell phone? And why was GPD okay with that? This the shit I be talking about. I located multiple photos taken at Postcard Cabin earlier in the week. None of the photos appeared to have them having issues. I searched text and social media messages and could not locate anything indicating Tyrone was fearful of Kiara. Again. And mind you, this was one of the speculations. Did you provide a phone that you was texting yourself? The family told them that she pulled off with one of the phones because somebody stated that they called the phone and she's the person that called back. They sat in that meeting and act like we was the ones that was crazy. I sent the photo of the person they said to Sergeant Fodata, who was able to identify this person. They canvassed multiple times for the person, which was the homeless person they said. They were able to locate him, and he said he did not see Tyrone get out of the vehicle. He said when he noticed something that happened, he looked over and GPD was already on the scene. He said it could possibly be another person that was walking by, and he gave him information on that person. I was able to locate this other person at the Exxon gas station. This person said he was not the person who spoke with Richard, with the other person at the scene of the incident. He said he had heard about the incident after the fact and he did not witness it. He said he would ask around and call me if he talked with anyone who witnessed it. I gave my business card and never received a phone call from him. I continued canvassing the area and did not locate anyone who witnessed how Tyrone got out of the vehicle. During the course of my investigation, I was informed that Kiara had transferred over money from Tyrone's bank accounts after his death, which we know was established. And even with the joint with the aunt, all of that money got transferred back because they were able to recoup it from her account. And then the other stuff is going into probate for his children with that mom. Out of Tyrone's bank accounts. Due to Tyrone living and banking outside of my jurisdiction, I informed them to contact the authorities where they lived and banked. During my investigation, I spoke with Renee multiple times over the phone. Lieutenant Scott spoke with Renee over the phone as well. During phone conversations, Renee said she believes that Tyrone jumped out of the vehicle on his own accord. Renee also said that Tyrone has jumped out of moving vehicles in the past. I told you this was relevant because earlier on, Kiara is very adamant that Tyrone has only ever gotten out of moving vehicles once the vehicle was coming to a stop in order to go and speak to his friends. So now I am questioning why his mom would tell law enforcement that he's known to jump out of vehicles. And there is information from the medical examiner's office where Lieutenant Scott said that the mom told him that he's known to jump out of vehicles during the argument. How was that even possible when Kiara herself said that that's never happened? I'm telling you what's in the papers. Based on phone records and surveillance videos, I could verify that Kiara and Tyrone checked into the hotel together. Tyrone went to the hotel room while Kiara went to T-Mobile and tried to get a new router. Kiara picked Tyrone up from the hotel and they went to Papa John's where Tyrone ordered and picked up a pizza. Kiara made a U-turn. After making the U-turn, Kiara entered the Circle K parking lot and parked near the sidewalk. Approximately 5 minutes later, according to Kiara, she returned to the scene after emergency vehicles were driving by. All of this was consistent with Kiara's statements. How many inconsistencies have I named by just reading to y'all? Just reading to y'all the inconsistencies. This shit is wild. Other than Kiara, nobody was located who saw how Tyrone got out of the vehicle. Based on Tyrone's size, it is not probable that Kiara was able to open the passenger door and push him out. Kiara's back seat was packed full, and there was no room in the vehicle for any other occupants that could have pushed Tyrone out of the vehicle. So again, there was no one else there that was present. On 2/23/26, I received the MD's reports. Tyrone's cause of death was related to complications from multiple blunt force trauma to the head. And then based on these circumstances surrounding this case, I ruled that it was accidental. When Tyrone arrived at Shands, a blood draw was completed. A blood draw showed a low amount of alcohol, which could have been a factor in his decision making. So my point is, how can this low amount be a factor in his decision making, but it's not a factor in Kiara's decision making, who was the driver, even if by her statement they both drank the same amount? I'm just saying. I'm just telling you what I'm reading. Tyrone's injuries included trauma to the rear right side of the back of his head and abrasions on his upper extremity and abrasions on his upper neck. These injuries are consistent with falling after exiting a moving vehicle. I've been unable to locate any evidence indicating foul play because you didn't look for any. So then I received a phone call from a family member who had a video recording of a phone call with Kiara where she admitted that Tyrone was asking her to let him get out of the vehicle and that she would not let him. The video was of someone on speakerphone who appears to be Kiara. The first 2 seconds of the video, I was unable to understand what was being said, but it sounds like Kiara saying he knows, make sure he's stuck up. It's so complicated. And then 2 seconds into the video, Kiara says, so he's getting out of space. He's getting out for space. But before I fully stopped, then he jumped. At this point, he's on the side of the road, not even a block away or whatever. It was up the street. So I get to be a couple minutes or whatnot. And I'm like, damn, he ain't made it here yet. So I started, and then the video cuts off. This phone call recording does not show anything criminal occurred. And there's further evidence that Tyrone got out of the vehicle on his own accord. Yeah. And then I want to go, because there was one other thing that they wrote actually in a supplement that I want to make sure that I read here that was also very strange. And like I say, I'm reading this to you all so you know where I got it from. Hold on one moment so I can get there. I'm sorry, it's such a long report. Oh, so this was another supplement. I spoke with Kiara Davis on the phone on 12/29 at 11 o'clock. She was requesting a copy of the report and or for me to read her the witness statements. She advised that she wants to have something to give to the family. She also advised that she was told that the camera at the intersections does not record, so there is no video of her boyfriend jumping out of the car. I advised her I could not provide her with the information requested and provided her with Detective Dose's follow-up information. So I wanted to share those. It does. So I want to be very clear. I'm reading you from the records. Remember when I entered the chat on the 9th, I wanted to be very, very... I'm not trying to read anything wrong because I didn't read anything about it. I've read nothing from the medical examiner. That's the reason y'all so slow and so dense. I've not read a thing from the medical examiners about the actual injuries. So that's the point. And the reason that we stopped actually posting them is because y'all dense as fuck and can't read. So you've seen the actual report yourself. So why would I need to read the injuries if you've actually seen it? Make it make sense. Make it make sense. And that's the issue. I've never seen people so hell-bent on making things that make sense not make sense when it's all right here for you. I was very clear that when I entered, that was the reason in getting the data so that we didn't have to speculate, so that we could see what GPD actually had and what they said. And what's interesting, when I talk about all the inconsistencies, I'm talking about GPD and all their inconsistencies. I'm talking about what they typed and what they said compared to what the actual data actually says and what states as it relates to the reports. The fact that y'all make yourselves look so absolutely absurd and ridiculous is the part for me. That's the point when I talk about misinformation. That was the reason that I read to you all what Chief Moya sent me and what the records person sent me before I got it. That's the reason that I was clear that even with them, they didn't want to release it. That's the reason I read to you all the videos that we're actually waiting. See, the issue for me is when I state that receipts, I'm reading you this. And what did I say? So when we get the video so they can actually support what they're actually stating as it relates to in here. What I stated is, now we're still waiting on the 911 calls. What I read you before was fire and rescue. What we read before that was from the ME's reports. What I read this morning was actually email communications. The audacity of you all to listen to somebody who has no actual receipts when we're stating to you the evidence that they state that they have that we should expect. Y'all said it wasn't no video at Papa John's. They stated that the video was actually uploaded. They stated the Fairfield Inn was uploaded. I literally stated a part of you with Gilchrist County. I didn't read that part because it's been established that this happened between 5:36 and 5:44. That's clear by what is actually laid out. And they're stating that the video footage is going to support that. Those timestamps came from videos that they claim that they pulled that we're going to see. What I read to you is what they stated when they reviewed her car that day. There was too much stuff in it. So that's the point. The point is all of your theories that you're stating, when they presented it, it was actually there. When I read earlier today, they told the medical examiner they were going to pull the black box and then turn around and didn't pull the black box. I didn't do that. They did. They stated this is what they're supposed to do and they turn around and they didn't do it. They stated in her statement that she said he didn't do these things and then they turned around and said that she did. I didn't do that. They did that. They stated, in my mind, and not even in my mind, the fact that even outside of this, a whole neurosurgeon has written a statement and is prepared to testify. So, and mind you, in multiple things that I read, multiple people from the ME who sent an email stating that they interviewed the people at the hospital because the hospital said the injuries didn't match. I read you that family members stated, hey, did you interview the people at the hospital? Because the hospital said the injuries don't match that. Like the fact that you're disregarding all of the actual experts to be experts that you are not. This how y'all was doing COVID. All the experts telling y'all what to do during COVID, and all of a sudden now y'all got medical degrees. All of a sudden now y'all got doctoral degrees. Now, as it relates to experts, y'all trying to, and mind you, it's so funny because I actually do have a whole goddamn bachelor's degree. Like the audacity, and then some of Tyrone's family members actually work in criminal justice. And it's so funny to me. Just the irony of all of it. The fact that even with the research team, one of them works in forensics. The other is an MSN that's getting a doctoral degree with experience in forensics. And you still are trying to tell them what is not right with no credentials. With no credentials, but sitting on your ass on a computer. Picking it apart because y'all done looked up some AI and these is people's life work. And literally, in order for shit to get in AI, we got to feed it. It's literally our research paper and documentation. It's the audacity of it all for me. So as I stated, as I wanted to share these things and lay out, hopefully this dismisses a lot of the actual information. As I keep stating, for me, it's about actually reading to you all and letting you all know what the actual things are that are actually in these reports. It's about clarifying what GPD has actually documented. And even as I stated to you all, as they state that things are consistent, if they go back and read their own documentation, things are actually not consistent. As I made very clear, I do believe there was an actual accident. I've never thought that there was an intent to kill him, but it is very clear that whatever happened under that bridge. It is very clear that there was no one else that was actually there. So there was no robbery. There was no drugging. There was no beat up. Even when I read from the medical examiner, the ketamine was in his blood, which is only in your blood for 24 hours, and they pulled it post-mortem, which we know this from the medical records, it was giving to rapidly intubate him. And that's the point. So instead of us making assumptions, let's actually get the data and the information to figure out what it is. I'm wondering if she actually hit him in the head, or if as he was getting out, she got mad and she's hit on the brakes and he bopped his head. I'm wondering that. I don't know if she hit him with a thing. So reading from her own statement, where she said she slammed on the brakes and she sped up as he was getting out. But that's the issue. I don't know. So that's why this is going to the research team, where this is their job to be able to do that. They're going to help to reconstruct the timeline with the new information. There actually wasn't traffic on that road because remember, the students weren't here. It was the holidays. It was December the 27th. I said the same thing at first. But ironically enough, at this particular time, because Gainesville is almost dead during the holidays, that's why. But that's also why we're waiting on the videos. So then we can see whatever else is there that they might have missed. Because even by reading this report, I see all kind of shit that they missed. Her interview was 4 hours and 56 minutes. You see all I wrote out of there. There could be plenty that's actually in the interview. So that is the reason we're not even just depending on what they wrote up. We want the actual videos and interviews and things ourselves in order to be able to do. He did not. And he's not been known for jumping out of a car. We literally just stated that. What is stated and was made clear, and Kiara herself stated it, they could be riding like Florida boys do. He see his homeboy, and he's known for getting out of the car as it comes to a stop. That's literally why I wanted to make sure that I read that particular part. I read it, and I'm so specific about it because it's a lot of y'all seem very slow. I specifically read that because it was made clear that he does not. I made clear that in her interview, she stated he's never jumped out of a car because he was upset. In her statement, she stated that was abnormal. That was weird. She don't know where that came from. That's the reason that I went back and read it multiple times. It's because she stated it in her statement. Like, that's the deal. And that's the reason that I wanted to read directly. So when y'all said, well, oh, they said this and that, her statement is totally in direct opposition to that. Her own statement. The things that are gathered, the things that are proved, are in direct opposition of somebody else being there. Are in direct opposition of it happening in Gilchrist County. Are like literally the things that have been gathered are in direct opposition. When we got the emails from the medical examiner today, it is clear that the medical examiner questioned it. That's why they sent so many emails. That's why they asked for a video of the incident. That's why they asked for a particular follow-up. When you read the actual findings, like they stated, the manner of death, that's why I read on the report, the officer said that I said that it's accidental. They stated that the medical examiner said it was from multiple blunt force trauma to the head. The police officer decided it was accidental, not the medical examiner. And for the medical examiner, from the communications that they got, every one of them, even return of investigation, it said the officers kept saying that it was accidental, but even for them, when you denote what the injuries are, they don't make sense. Even when you are released a diagram, there, when you go read the entire report that they got, but I see they've not released it because it doesn't fit in narrative, it shows what the surgical interventions are. It is very clear. The injury that he got is to the right side of the back of his head and abrasions on the back of his neck. That's it. That's the injuries that they actually denoted. You know, when you went and then you look down, he got a scrape on his knee. That could have been from falling. That's it. His injuries do not support him jumping out of a car. In some of the reports, they say 20 miles. Some say 25. Some say 25 to 30. It just don't support that. So for me, I don't have to take the time to speculate. I'm telling you what I'm reading. And what I'm stating is now with this information, it is now going to the professionals who do this to recreate a timeline, who do this to go out there and actually do an actual reconstruction, which is the things that you do in an actual trial. The only difference with this now is where the state would normally pay for this, the family is paying for this up front. Or like with these records, I paid the $561. And so what is happening is when it comes to their experts, the family is paying out of pocket. Where if the state would take it on, they would have paid the private investigator. And it's because they didn't count on this family pooling their resources and making sure that it happens. And the reason we're doing it this particular way, because now when you go convene a grand jury or go hand it to the state, all of the stuff is there. So even when people are asking the FBI or FDLE get involved, the FDLE can absolutely investigate. But what we're doing first is make sure we got it all. And the issue is this is not even about Dro. I was talking to a friend today about a man that got shot. He was with another female, and the girl said she tied him in self-defense. She's the person that chased him down. All the bullet holes was in their vehicles. And literally because she said that he was the aggressor, they actually let her off. She ended up getting decades in prison for another crime that she did some years later. I've named 4 different cases of people they were hit and runs and the exact same thing happened. Our police department, this is literally their pattern when the victim is a black person. And not even just with black males, there are black children that have been hit here. And the same thing has happened. When we did the protest for Justice for Dro on Saturday, there are people in Gainesville upset because a baby got hit. She was like 7 or 8 years old. There's been no justice. I got a mom who wants me to follow because her 16-year-old got hit. And the same thing happened. There was no justice, and there was no investigation, and there was no follow-up. There's a baby now where we got street lights up in our East Gainesville, which is the black side of town, because the baby got hit, and there was no follow-up. So this pattern is not just because it's Dro or just because it's abnormal. This is the pattern for our police department. And so for you to sit and for y'all to have so much to say, not even realizing this is so much bigger than Dro. Yeah, and that video has been disproven. Again, that's somebody that they don't went and found. That's in nothing. And so like they said, it's a video going around. That's literally, I got 5 pages that show all of the videos that we're waiting for that $561. This stuff is not accurate. People are purposely sowing disinformation and misinformation and upset at the same time because we keep getting all the documentation in order to be clear about actually what it is. I only had to go to the computer and read the part about Kiara requesting that the witness statements and stuff be read because I only pulled the 10 pages 10 through 23 of this report. I didn't actually print the first 9 pages. So there's plenty of stuff actually here. And to be very clear, that's another thing. Y'all want everybody to post everything for what? Because what has been very clear, y'all don't give a fuck about facts. For those of y'all, y'all don't care what the facts are. Y'all gonna skew them and make them be whatever it is that you want to be. So do that. What we're gonna do is proceed forward on this journey like we have been doing. And even like Chief Moy know, he now has to respond to my stuff in 48 hours. So we're gonna keep on our path. So all the stuff that y'all say not gonna work, all the information y'all say we can't gonna get, we doing it. We're gonna keep on with that. So I'm gonna leave y'all with that. Toodles.